Alright, YouTube, it is Mr. Mean coming at you from very gloomy Duluth, Minnesota. It is my birthday weekend. That is right, I turned 52 on Friday. I've been on a little hiatus from videos. I started my new job. Life is looking up for Mr. Mean. And my little meanie over there, I'm sure you can hear him in the background. So Mama's taking a nap. She's got bronchitis. She's not feeling very good. But we went to Black Duck Lake Resort for the weekend. We just got back. We actually left pretty early this morning. Today is Sunday. For those watching this later, Sunday, June 23rd. We got there Friday afternoon, and we had all evening Friday, which was beautiful, and all day Saturday, which was just breathtaking. If you follow me on MeWe, I put some pictures up there. It was gorgeous. So I haven't done a video in 2 weeks, getting acclimated to the new job, and Senior Systems Executive is my title, and they gave me a nice big office, and it's a glorified title. What it really means is I fix people's shit, but it's an awesome job. The company seems to be pretty good. They're pretty stable. Hey man, it's a job. I got full medical benefits, 401k. So life is looking up for Mr. Mean. Let's hope we can keep this job for a while and nothing jeopardizes it. I'm trying to just stay on the straight and narrow, do my job. There's been meetings after. Let's have a meeting to discuss the meeting. Woo! But my kid is healthy. My wife's getting healthy. I'm doing great. I'm down about 20 pounds, and of course, shaving the beard probably was about 5 pounds of that. But everything's doing good, and let's get to the today's RPG video du jour. This is one I'm not sure I covered on the channel. I did look. I think I got like over 200 videos. I think we're over 510 subscribers. So first, let's get a little housekeeping out of the way. First of all, you can like and subscribe, ring that bell to be dinged when I dong. As Matt Colville says, I'll put notes down in the doobly-doo. You can send me a donation if you want to help keep the channel going and support the craziness and insanity that is Mr. Mean through Zelly Pay. Again, I'll put links down in the doobly-doo. But first and foremost, I want to give a big shout out to my gaming group here in Duluth. We finally got a group together, and we're playing the D&D 5th edition, but we're not playing standard D&D. We're playing Midgard by Kobold Press, and if you have not checked that out, go back in the archives there and look at my reviews. I did a couple reviews of some of their product. I'm really a big fan of Kobold Press. Wolfgang Bauer actually emailed me. Wow! He liked my video review, and yeah, fanboy for a minute, geek out, squee, was really cool. He liked the video, and he was really cool. So it was very nice, very complimentary. So I might actually shoot an email out to him and see if there's any chance of getting him on the channel for an interview. That would be super cool. I want to get back into things, at least putting one video up a week. Those videos will probably be recorded on the weekends because my weeks are, I have to be at work at 7 a.m. and I get off at about 3:30. I get a 30-minute lunch, but my day is so busy that anything longer would just make an even longer day. And this is the summertime here in Duluth, and I want to get out and enjoy the nice weather and all that fun stuff. So there's my little guy right here with his flashing ball. Whee! Go get it! Sorry, Mama's sleeping, so it's up to me, but this is the moment I had to record videos. So today's video du jour, with that out of the way, let's get to today's video du jour. This is a blast from 2004 from Fantasy Flight Games, and I have a love-hate relationship with Fantasy Flight. They make some amazing games. They really do. They make some great games. Star Wars, Genesis, the Warhammer 40K series, the tabletop role-playing game Rogue Trader, geez, I can't think of the name now. Death Watch, Black Crusade. I mean, they've got Dark Heresy. Dark Heresy, they did a second edition of, which I really, really like the layout of the book and the design. I'm really, really happy with it. But they lost the license. They gave it away to, I don't know if they gave it away, but they lost the license and it went to Ulysses Spiel, which also does great stuff. They make my very much beloved The Dark Eye, German-based company. And then Ulysses Spiel gave it up, or I don't know what happened. Nobody seems to know what happened. It just kind of disappeared off the Ulysses Spiel store, and then it showed up on Cubicle 7. Cubicle 7, who is the guys that are making Warhammer Fantasy 4th Edition, have decided to, for whatever reason, take Wrath and Glory, which is the new Warhammer 40k. It wraps up all those different games that Fantasy Flight had put out and puts them under one banner called Wrath and Glory. It's not for me. I've checked it out. I've looked at the PDF primer, and I don't like the game mechanics. Ross Watson is an awesome game designer. I've had the privilege of meeting him. He's worked on a lot of Savage World stuff. He's worked on a lot of Torg stuff. He's a great game designer. He's worked on Star Wars stuff for Fantasy Flight. He's a great game designer. I don't particularly care for the mechanics of the new Wrath and Glory. That's just me. You may like it. If they decide to send me a copy of it and want me to do a review, I'll give it a read and I'll give it a fair shake. But what I read of the primer when it was in Kickstarter, it just didn't spark me, and it is what it is. But that being said, Fantasy Flight has known for putting out some awesome games and then abandoning them, and this concept really blows my mind. Fantasy Flight is a good company. They don't do Kickstarters. They put out quality product. I know in the past I've had a problem with some of the binding or materials that their books were made out of, and I've reached out to them, and all they said is, hey, take some pictures, send it to us. Boom. A couple weeks later, I got a brand new copy of the book in the mail, and they told me, keep the old book. We recommend you spiral bound it so the pages don't fall out, and now you've got to play, your players have a copy. So their customer service, as far as I'm concerned, has been really good. They also make my beloved Descent, Journey into Darkness, or Journeys into the Dark, which is a 3D dungeon delving tabletop board game that pretty much plays like a role-playing game without all of the necessary role-playing. It's my little guy running in and out. He thinks it's really funny to come in here and make funny noises and then run out. But one of the games that they made that confounded me, because when I picked up this game back in 2004 when it hit the shelves at my local game store, I was flabbergasted. I thought, wow, this is such a novel idea, and it's a great game, and the mechanics are cool. And again, not a fan of D6 systems, but I like this one. And I couldn't understand why they shelved it. And I don't know how much material came out. I have 3 of the products. So without further ado, today, Mr. Mean speaks about Fireborn, the role-playing game. They came out with 3 products that I'm aware of. They may have come out with more. They've got the GM's Handbook, the Game Master's Handbook, and the Player's Handbook. Now, first of all, the covers are amazing, and what's even better is when you put them together, it looks like the dragon. It looks like a pair of dragon eyes. So, A, that's neat. B, when you put them on the shelf, it's very contrasting. So they're hardback. They are stitched. I don't believe they are glued, and that gave me pause for concern, because even though glue dries out eventually, one of the nice things about gluing it in with the stitching is it helps reinforce the stitching. And I'm not sure if they call that Smith stone or what. My Player's Handbook seems to be a little bit better, worse for wear, than the actual GM book. The GM book, the binding feels like it's breaking. And I don't know if that's because this has been moved so many times and it's starting to fall apart. But so there's those 2 books, and then they came out with an adventure called The Fire Within, an introductory Fireborn adventure, which I also have. And glossy softback, 64 pages, new spells, more art, and an adventure. I haven't even read this. This has been sitting on my shelf since 2014. We're in 2019, so what is that, 15 years? And I've never touched it. So I need to read it one day. It's probably a good read. Fantasy Flight's material is usually top-notch. Now, so like we said, hardback, stitched, binding, not glued as far as I can tell. It may be glued, but it doesn't feel like it. So the lead developer was Rob Varn. Original concept with Greg Beneg. Writing. Nobody that I've heard. Daryl Hardy, I've heard him. He was a big in Torg.
Jeff Tidball's done D&D. Rob Vaughn, of course, has been around. The cover illustration was Camille Kuo, Kuo. And again, I don't know, I've never heard of her, but it's a very striking cover. And like I said, the dragon eye. So what is really neat? Oh, these retailed for $29.95 for the Game Master's Guide, $29.95 for the Player's Book, and then the Adventure went for a whopping $14.95. Here's what's crazy. On the Fantasy Flight forums, these forums are still active. There are people still playing this game and begging Fantasy Flight to come out with more material, and they won't do it. I don't understand why. Your audience is asking for stuff. Even release it as PDF. People will buy it. I think you can still buy these as PDFs on Fantasy Flight's website. I've gone to the actual Fantasy Flight store in Minnesota here. It's just outside of the cities, Roseville, Minnesota. And I didn't see anything. I was looking because they have a shelf of just their products, and I didn't see any up there. So I don't want to say this is a collector's item, but it is kind of rare. And it, like I said, a very cool logo. What was neat about these books, aside from, just what the game is the first couple of pages were color. And like the Game Master's Guide has a short piece of fiction in it. And it was really well written. And the art is fantastic, very cartoony, almost, I wouldn't want to say dark, but very cool art. I mean, there's a humankind in the mythic age. You can pause it here and take a peek at that. Let's see if there's any other cool pieces of art. This is another striking one. It's a guy walking, modern day, but his shadow his reflection on the ground is a shadow of a dragon. And you may say, well, what does that have to do? Well, if you don't know, Fireborn is a role-playing game where you play a dragon throughout the ages, and what happens is it's modern day. The game takes place in England, in London specifically, and what happens is magic has awoken in modern London, drawing both supernatural beings and mortal men there to vie for power and knowledge. Some of the combatants in that conflict are older than mankind itself, and their heritages stretch back to a mythic age of vast empires, mighty creatures, and powerful magic. You are the player's guide to both worlds. And then the player's book says, struggle in a modern age of magic and deceit. Explore a mythic age of epic adventure. Reclaim lost hoards and awaken mysterious powers. Uncover the fire within and become the dragon. So what's really neat about this is, as player characters, and I've never gotten to play this because I could never find enough people interested, even though I was jonesing over it, because, my God, you get to play a dragon. Who doesn't want to play a dragon? I mean, it's part of the name of our core game, Dungeons and Dragons. This is like everything you want and more, all rolled up. This is like the best burrito in the world. But the art is very cool. This is out of the Dungeon Master's Guide, or the Game Master's Guide. So very cool art. And then, of course, after a couple pages, it goes into black and white. But that thematic theme of the art is consistent throughout the book. The page borders and everything are really... This book is just plain out beautiful and laid out really well. The Game Master's Guide is neat. It's full of, how to run the game, the world of, London right now, with all of the cool art and everything in it. You see there's central London. There's a little map. And tells you, tells the GM or the Game Master how to play the game. And of course there's, mythic London and, the mythological time. There's a bunch of NPCs and spells and monsters. Legacy of the Horse Lords. I think there's some adventures in here. Kurgan tribes, Trimley Outpost, Jotunheim, all that Norse mythology and stuff is in here. And it's just the lay of the land, everything you need to know to run this game effectively. A bunch of information about dragons and how to create dragons and how to create antagonists and some of the powers that existed back in the mythological era of dragons and the enemies that the dragons face. Because at one time, the dragons were the supreme power in this world, and they lost that power. And it tells you what happened. And I did read that part, but I don't want to ruin it for you guys. If you can find copies of these, pick it up. So again, art is fantastic. Layout is fantastic. The rules are straightforward written. There was no parts where I read it and I went, what? It makes sense. It's pretty well done. But the meat and potatoes of this, and again, gorgeous cover, really neat, really exemplifies the theme of this game. You're a human in modern day London, and you're a dragon. And the way the game processes this, I think, is one of the neatest mechanics. This game makes extensive use of flashbacks. So you start out, the introductory adventure that's in the book, you start out as a human and you go through some stuff that is kind of traumatic. And again, I don't want to ruin the premise, but you go through some stuff that's traumatic and you start having these like headaches and you start having these glimpses of the past, like Vikings or some mythological, era that you can't put your finger on. But and you these forces of nature and everything that you're dealing with. And as the game progresses and the GM throws more flashbacks at you, you gain more and more control over your dragon aspect. So eventually you will be able to turn into a dragon, and you will be able to, breathe fire. You will be able to cast spells. And of course, there's different types of dragons. And the game, part of character creation is you make your human character, and you also, as the game progresses and the GM throws these flashbacks at you, you're creating your dragon character. So you play two characters. As I said in my preamble there, where I was babbling, you start your character creation by choosing a background. You purchase aspects. And of course, it goes off the concept. Let me see if the character sheet is in here. I believe it is. Let's see. Bear with me. Yes, there's the character sheet, which is, you can still find this online. You have 4 aspects: fire, air, water, and earth. And of course, it goes disadvantage, mental and physical. So, obviously fire and water are physical disadvantages, but earth and fire are mental disadvantages. And then, air and water are advantageous. But, earth and air are earth and fire. Yeah, so anyway, you get the gist of it. You have a bunch of skills. They give you a list of skills, edges, powers, and legacies, your health chart, armor, karma, because karma is a big thing in the game. Because evidently from what I've read, you will die a lot in this game, but you get to come back. And you can either come back as a new character or you can come back as, reincarnated, basically. So you may have different physical stats as a human, but your dragon stats will stay the same. And you have 2 character sheets, so it'd be front and back. And one is your scion character, or your human, and the other is your dragon. And you have your fighting styles. You get sequences. Sequences are like stances, and they allow you to do certain things. But the neat mechanic of this game is it's a D6 dice pool game. It's not huge because the highest stat you can have is a 6. The lowest you can have is a 0. So if you have a 0 fire, you're not very physical. But if you had a 6 fire, you're like athletic performance. Now dragons, of course, can go higher than that because they're dragons. But as a human, your highest attribute is a 6, with 2 being the average. So you've got some wiggle room there, obviously before you get to 6. Now, what's neat about this game is you'll have a skill like, say, athletics, and you want to jump across that rooftop. Well, obviously that's going to be fire. That would be based off of fire. So you could your athletics is, say, a 2, so you could roll 2 6. But one of the neat things is, I say, you really need to succeed. You burn dice. Your dice pool is expendable, and so you don't want to burn all your fire because combat's coming up later. Because fire and air are sympatical, you can take, like, say you only have a 2 in air, you could take 1 die out of your fire and roll it with those 6 dice, so rolling 7 dice, and every success, 4, 5, or 6 is a success. And the GM may say you need X amount of successes. So it's a very cool die mechanic. It's very fluid, and you have to make some choices. One of the things I like, if you notice on the character sheet, you've got a big square for your attributes. you could literally take, some smaller D6s and you could stack them on there so that you could move them around and keep track, so you don't have to keep erasing or whatever. Or you could, a lot of people now use their cell phones or an iPad or a tablet of some kind, or their laptop as a character sheet. And so obviously if it's a PDF form fillable, and they do have this as a form fillable. So either way, I just think it's kind of neat to have that physical representation of the dice on the table that you could swap back and forth. And again, the really cool part of character creation is you go through these flashbacks and you develop your dragon character, so you can learn, and kind of with the GM's help, you're narrating a story within a story. So you have these flashbacks, and so you can have a game session where you're walking down the street and you have a flashback and you go back to ancient mythological times where you're having this huge aerial battle with another evil dragon, or another dragon, or another, monster of some kind, and you learn more about your dragon and you can fill it in as you're playing. No, there's also nothing we said that you can't just go through and create your dragon with your GM and go from there. They give you a lot of flexibilities, a lot of edges, a lot of legacies. Your legacies give you kind of cool stuff. You do have minimum requirements for certain things, so you kind of have to plan it out. You need to understand how character creation works in order to make a viable dragon. But I think part of the fun would be to develop it along the way when you're making that character. And so you may not be the most awesomest dragon, but again, remember, your dragon has been asleep, for thousands of years. And so some things have atrophied, maybe his physical might isn't what it used to be. And through role playing, you can get it back up. And of course, there's rules for experience and how to go up and all that kind of stuff. There's magical items, there's all kinds of things, there's monsters in the world, and there's a lot of things that are masquerading as humans that aren't really human, and they could be global corruption, global corporate corruption and things. So it's pretty neat. The game doesn't have to take place in London. You could, of course, run this game, somewhere else if you wanted to. New York, San Francisco, but the default setting is England, in London. So the art of, again, like I said in the book, is fantastic. I'm trying to see if I can find some cool art. A lot of charts, a lot of great concepts. Here's a helicopter fighting a dragon. I think you could take this a step further, and you could probably run, like, if you remember the old Gargoyles cartoon, you could totally run that where, because I think these mechanics would work well for that game. I've seen the Gargoyles conversion for Vampire. In fact, I have it somewhere. It never made print. It was just something that fans made, but they used the Vampire, the Masquerade system for Gargoyles. But I think this system would work equally as well. So instead of being a dragon, you would be a gargoyle, and you don't necessarily have to have your human side, or you could transport enough and say, by day you're a human and at night you turn into a gargoyle, which would still totally make sense. But the art is fantastic. It's very well written. I really dig it. It's got a lot of, there's like a Wendigo, I think, or a Yeti attacking some sort of soldier or man-at-arms. So the art is just, like I said, it's amazing. That's another good piece. Looks like a young lady swimming in water, but she's got a dagger. It looks kind of modern day, so who knows? All kinds of stuff. So just a great game. Oh, there's another cool piece of art, black and white. So they give you a wealth system. They give you all kinds of information. Power and legacies, which is basically how your dragon, the powers of your dragon and the legacies of your dragon. And again, they tell you how to, you can have like Japanese, style dragons, Western dragons. It's kind of any kind of dragon you want. You choose your creature type or your dragon, and all these different abilities. And just, there's, speaking of Western dragons, there's kind of a motif right there. So, and that's dragon creation right there. Choose a concept, purchase or adapt aspects, choose your outlook, choose breeds, choose legacy, dependent traits, and finishing touches. It's that easy. But there's a lot of choices. So, and of course, there's just never enough points or whatever to make your character. There's edges you can buy. There's a cost. There's trickery. I mean, everything. This was just really a well done game, and I have no idea why Fantasy Flight canned it. I really don't. I don't understand. This is a concept that was amazing. The art was fantastic. The layout of the book is really well done. I mean, it's, that's the back of the book. The price point was good. $30 for a hardback book. The player's guide is 208 pages. And there's sample Fireborn characters in here. I mean, there's everything you could use. So to get you up and running, you could choose one of those instead of creating your own. So, and the Game Master's Guide was 208 pages with a full index, some NPC, lots of NPC sheets, so good stuff there. Named NPCs, and then of course just unnamed NPCs with the basic stats, all your mechanics, everything you could want. The art, is amazing, and they just stopped making this game, and I have no idea. I mean, did it not sell well? Because I know my game store in Concord, California got, I think, 2 or 3 copies of each, and I know they were all sold. I don't know who else bought them, but I know I bought mine, and so I don't understand why it didn't make it, but for whatever reason it didn't, and Fantasy Flight decided to kill it. I mean, and just fantastic art, great layout. I don't understand. I mean, look at that. That's just good art, man. I mean, it may not be your style of art, but I mean, the book is laid out well. Full index, table of contents. Everything you could need to run this game. Monsters. I mean, just everything you need. Pyre Hawk, look at that, man. I mean, that looks cool. And then there's the stats for it right there. So you can see that. This is one I would definitely like to get to the table. I'm sad that it hasn't seen much love. But it is what it is. And, I don't know what Fantasy Flight was thinking. If you guys know, or somebody has some scoop on the knowledge, feel free to drop it on me, because I don't understand why they let this game die. Just like their Midnight setting, which was a nice 3.5, or was it 3.0? It was either 3.0 or 3.5 D&D setting, and it was basically what if Sauron had won. It was, pretty much, it wasn't Middle Earth, but it was basically the take of, here's an evil guy who has all the power, and he wins, he dominates, he wins, and you play basically the resistance fighters. Like, elves are killed on sight, orcs are like his police force. Society still exists, it's just under the thumb of this despot ruler, and like magic is like verboten. I mean, if you have any kind of magical talent, you are hunted down and killed. So it's a really cool setting if you get a chance to check it out. But again, another Fantasy Flight setting that they killed, and that's why I'm so hesitant to back anything from Fantasy Flight. I don't want to get too invested in it because I'm afraid it's going to die. We haven't seen any new releases for the Descent game. I can't remember what it's called. Realms of Tyranoth. Nothing new. I mean, I got the character cards for Realm of Tyranoth, and I haven't had a chance to use them because, well, first of all, it's Duluth. I can't find anybody who wants to play, and B, I haven't seen anything new. They just came out with Shadow of the Beanstalk, which I think is an utterly stupid name, but it's based off of, I guess, the old Netrunner card game, and it was a big thing in the Netrunner, so they chose to pay homage to that, and I get that, and I can respect that. I don't have to like it, and I don't like it. I think the name they should have just called it Cyberpunk or something else. Anything's better than the Beanstalk, Shadow of the Beanstalk. I don't get it, but that's just me. So guys, that's my thoughts on Fireborn, the role-playing game. Have you played it? Did you hear about it? Do you know it? Have you seen it? Let me know in the notes below, man. It's one I'd really like to play. I'd like to at least do a one-shot, and I've got some conventions coming up pretty soon. So I'm hoping
maybe I'll run it at a convention. Maybe I'll sit down for a weekend and read up on it, and go play it at a convention. Make some pre-gens. I'm sure I know the Fantasy Flight forum is still open for it, so maybe I'll go there and see if anybody's posted any NPCs or any. There's a ton of NPCs in the book, and a ton of player characters in the book. Not a ton, but there's a couple. So I could just take those and put them on a character sheet and run a small adventure. The intro adventure that's in the book seems really good. It's been years since I read it, but I do remember reading it and going, oh, that makes sense. So again, just another title that Fantasy Flight decided to shit can, and I don't understand why. If you guys have any inclination, let me know. Did you guys ever get to play it? If you've played Fireborn, please let me know. How did it play? It looks in my mind, from what I read, that it would play really well. And like I said, I'm not a huge fan of D6 systems, but I get where they're going with this, and it makes sense to me. So it could totally see running this, and I think I would enjoy it. So yeah, let me know in the notes below. Thumbs up if you liked the video. A subscribe if you loved the video. If you haven't seen it, if you're already a subscriber, tell your friends. Let's grow the meanie army. I think we're up to right at 510 subscribers, maybe a little bit more. And guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, peace and hair grease. And remember, as soon as I can find my mouse here, Mr. Mean says, be nice.